Hello everyone, welcome back to New Horizons by Ranjini Dasgupta. Today, let us discuss about the poem After Blenheim by Robert Southey, which is a part of the Class 9 ICSE syllabus, in which we will study in details about the poet, the theme of the poem, the message delivered by it, the central idea, the justification of the title, the stanza-wise summary of the poem, and the poetic devices used. For your convenience, I have added timestamps in the description so that if you wish to watch any segment again, you can just click on that particular timestamp to go through it. So, without further delay, let's get started. Robert Southey was an English poet of the Romantic school and poet laureate from 1813 until his death. He began as a radical but became steadily more conservative as he gained respect for Britain and its institutions. He produced a large amount of lyrical verse, odes, sonnets, inscriptions, emblematic poems, monodramas, eclogues, and specially ballads, dealing with social injustice, crime, guilt, and the supernatural and the demonic. The theme of the poem? The poem is a scathing commentary on man's cruelty to man. War, as seen in this poem, represents the worst state of human behavior. The main concern of the people is the great victory gained at the cost of death and devastation. The children do not grasp the so-called benefits of war. Children are curious by nature. They want to know the exact purpose and the benefits of war. But the old people unquestioningly accept the loss of innocent lives as the price of the glorious victory in the war. They have resigned themselves to the fact that people do die in wars. The message of this poem is to convey how meaningless wars are. War is not a solution to peace, but gives way to bloodshed and brutality. Soldiers undergo both mental and physical trauma while being there out on the battlefield, and even the common folk who are not directly linked with the war face the harsh cruelties of war. The poet hopes to spread the message of peace and love through his poem to the readers, and that the glorification of war should be stopped at all costs. The central idea of the poem? It is an anti-war poem. The poet shows the absurd intricacies surrounding the war which common people are unaware of. For them, war is glorified as they consider it to be bold and an act of bravery, and are only bothered by the victory. To the common people, the death of a soldier is not remorseful, but the fact that he died for a great victory is more glorifying. They know who won the war, but don't know the hardship and bloodshed behind the war. The poet wants to bring forth the fact that war is not something to be glorified, as it is not the solution to peace. Soldiers go through extreme mental and physical exhaustion while being out there on the battlefield, which cannot be explained in terms of mere victory. Justification of the title? After Blenheim is an anti-war poem that centers on the most famous battle in the War of the Spanish Succession. Blenheim is the English name for the German village of Blenheim, situated on the left bank of the Danube River in Bavaria in southern Germany. It is a scathing criticism of the horrors of the war. In an outburst of praise for the heroes who won the war, old Caspar, representing the common man, reveals the typical inability of an ordinary citizen to grasp the reason why the war took place. The poem exposes the destruction caused by the war. For the common man, war means death, devastation, hunger, and disruption of peace. the idle boastfulness of heroes who win wars and the futility of war itself is depicted by innocent children. The innocent children become the mouthpiece of the poet who expresses his disapproval of war. Beginning with a stanza-wise summary of the poem. Stanza 1. It was a summer evening, old Caspar's work was done, and he before his cottage door was sitting in the sun, and by him, spotted on the green, his little grandchild Wilhelmine. The first stanza sets the tone and atmosphere for the narration and reflection. It was a summer evening and the place was the cottage of an elderly farmer, Caspar. Caspar was sitting in the sun before his cottage door and his little granddaughter Wilhelmine was playing in the field beside. Stanza 2. She saw her brother Peterkin roll something large and round, which he beside the rivulet in playing there had found. He came to ask what he had found that was so large and smooth and round. Wilhelmine saw her brother Peterkin roll something round which he had found beside the stream while playing there. He wanted to find out from Caspar, his grandfather, what it was. Stanza 3. Old Caspar took it from the boy, who stood expectant by, and then the old man shook his head and with a natural sigh, "'Tis some poor fellow's skull," said he, "who fell in the great victory." Old Caspar took the skull from Peterkin and replied that it was the skull of some poor man who was killed in the famous war. Stanza 4. I find them in the garden, for there's many hereabout, and often when I go to plough, the ploughshare turns them out. For many thousand men, said he, were slain in that great victory. In the fourth stanza, he continues saying that he found many such skulls all over the farm while ploughing, because many thousand men were killed in the battle that was known for its famous victory. Stanza 5. Now tell us what it's all about. Young Peterkin, he cries, and little Wilhelmine looks up with wonder-waiting eyes. Now tell us all about the war and what they fought each other for. Young Peterkin asked his grandfather to tell him the purpose of the war, while little Wilhelmine looked up at her grandfather with anticipation. Stanza 6. It was the English, Caspar cried, who put the French to rout. But what they fought each other for, I could not well make out. But everybody said, quoth he, that it was a famous victory. Caspar said in reply that the English defeated the French, but he could not tell why they fought, and he could only say that it was a very famous victory. Stanza 7. My father lived at Blenheim then, yon little stream hard by. They burnt his dwelling to the ground, and he was forced to fly. So with his wife and child he fled, nor hath he where to rest his head. In the course of the narration, Caspar told the children that his own father had lived at Blenheim. Soldier burnt his father's house and he was forced to leave the place with his wife and child. Thus, he became homeless. Stanza 8. With fire and sword, the country round was wasted far and wide, and many a childing mother then and newborn baby died. But things like that you know must be at every famous victory. The war itself was terrible. Fire and sword destroyed everything. Many pregnant women and newborn babies died. Such things, Caspar ironically stated, take place at every battlefield where there is a great victory. Stanza 9. They say it was a shocking sight after the field was won, for many thousand bodies here lay rotting in the sun. But things like that, you know, must be after a famous victory. It was reported that it was a shocking sight at the battlefield where thousands of dead bodies lay rotting in the sun, which did not even deserve a proper burial. Stanza 10. Great praise the Duke of Marlborough won, and our good Prince Eugene. Why, it was a very wicked thing, said little Wilhelmine. Nay, nay, my little girl, quoth he, it was a famous victory. However, the Duke of Marlborough and Prince Eugene won great praise for this victory. But little Wilhelmine said that it was a very wicked thing, as these people did not have to sacrifice their life in the war. Caspar replied ironically that it was a famous victory. The last stanza. And everybody praised the Duke, who this great fight did win, but what good came of it at last, quoth little Peterkin. Why, that I cannot tell, said he, but it was a famous victory. The poem ends with everybody praising the Duke. Peterkin asked what good came out of the war. Caspar said that he could not answer that question. He could just say that it was a famous victory. The literary devices used in the poem. The form and structure. The poem is in the form of a ballad. A ballad is a long narrative poem that tells a story. The meter used is iambic tetrameter. The second literary device that we are going to discuss is refrain. A refrain is a phrase, verse, or group of verses repeated at intervals throughout the poem, especially at the end of each stanza. Phrases like the great victory and a famous victory have been used repeatedly to emphasize the ignorance and complacency of the common man about the purpose of war, and the only knowledge that the war was won by their country and the victory was good. The rhyme scheme of all the other stanzas other than the second stanza is A, B, C, B, D, D, whereas the rhyme scheme of the second stanza is A, B, C, D, D, D. The fourth literary device is alliteration, which is the repetition of a speech sound in a sequence of nearby words. The term is usually applied to consonants. Example, with wonder waiting eyes. Next, repetition. At the end of each stanza, there is a repetition of an idea of great victory. Throughout the poem, Caspar repeats the victory being famous or great despite being ignorant of the purpose of war. The last poetic device is irony. The poem reflects on the horrors of war like burned houses, civilian casualties like those of pregnant women and newborn babies and rotting corpses. It is, however, ironical that the poem glorifies the outcome of the war in the form of great victory for a nation at the cost of huge destruction both of life and property. With this, we come to the end of this video. You will be glad to know that my online and offline English coaching classes are going on, and anyone who wishes to get detailed notes of the chapters and the poems is always welcome to join. The details of my online and offline classes are given in the description. Thanks for watching. Do not forget to like, share and subscribe to get a regular view of my videos.